need it because we're going to be here for a short minute? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Can everybody hear us? Yeah, I think we're about to start the program. So if we can invite you to take a seat. I think they want to start now because there's important information that needs to come. We want to make enough time to hear all of the leaders. So I invite you folks, please come and have a seat.
Shiadaneki, Anyat Kosani, Yashtakat Akwan, Yashtakat Ineti, Yaktihitan, Wushkitan, Aten Aku Shiadaneki, Kunilchi, Hadiati, Ya Wushkanakwood, Yadiak Oktatani, Ya Klishkohas as to Ani, Ya Wushkanakwood, Yadi. My grandfather's people, the Akwan, the Kaineti, the Yaktihitan, and the Wushkitan. We know this land that we all live on, that we are guests. As far as Takanak, Berners Bay, and maybe a little further than that, is your ancestral land. I am here as a grandchild and a guest on your land. And I say goodness cheesh for always being so kind to your grandchildren. Everybody here this evening, I hope we understand why we are gathering as guests on this land. We do not own this land. We have only been guests for generations. This has been their home since time immemorial. We need to give them the respect that they have given us as guests for so long. And we say, goodness, sheesh. You all are precious. This song we want to sing, my wife called Renee, myself, and we worked together to compose this song. And means you are precious. And this is how we feel about everybody here tonight. So that when we talk, we are talking with the utmost respect to one another, with the love that your grandparents hoped that you would receive. Goodness, sheesh.
We just wanted to say goodness cheesh to the Akwan for inviting us to come forward and open up the space for you. I am Colleen James, and I'm from Ketchikan and Metlakatla. My Tlingit name is Dach Kit'ach. I am both Ganachadi and Gitlan Ganhada. I'm Tlingit and Tsimshian, and like my husband shared, we are honored to be guests on this land of such wonderful stewards. Goodness, cheesh.
Ich adut Latin.
Do you want to come over here?
Ich adut Latin. Go.
Let's see. For hearing us. We wanted to open up this space in a good way. Ganchish for allowing us to take up time and for everybody to hear us. Okay, sit down.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. And it is a wonderful way to start something like this. So thank you. Gunachish.
Gunachish. Gunachish to Lyle and Colleen. Gunachish to all who joined them. Gunachish to all of you for being here tonight. My name is Marian Call. I am emceeing for the evening. My only role here is to facilitate and uplift the voices in the room. So sometimes I will share some thoughts that have been shared with me. Sometimes I will invite you to share your thoughts. But for now, my role is just to give you welcome. No welcome could be better than the one we just had to this space where we are so lucky to be guests on a beautiful snowy night like this. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the people who are streaming online as well. This is being streamed because we know it's not a night when everyone's able to get out and drive. So bear in mind that we will have to repeat any comments that occur off the microphone so that we can make sure folks are included and are able to join us listening. Thank you so much to our technical crew tonight facilitating that, and thank you to moderator Bailey Williams, making sure that YouTube commentary is respectful, just like we hope this space is going to be. We know this space is going to be, like we trust you to make it. We would also like to say thank you to the Alaska Conservation Foundation for their support to help make this event possible, and to the crew and volunteers with Southeast Alaska Conservation Council who have done so much to put this event together and to bring together voices that we need to hear tonight. My background, so you know who I am just a lucky local guest here in Juneau. I have lived here now since 2012. And I am a member of the City Commission, the Volunteer Commission, Juneau Commission on Sustainability. I am not here with that hat on tonight. I am here as a local resident because that is a city commission, and this is really a question of spending state funds. But we'll talk more later about the interaction between city, state, federal government, all of these different entities. I am also a member of the board of the Eagle River United Methodist Camp out at Achse at Twisted Tree, Eagle River area. That is one of the most beautiful areas in all of Juneau, and the board of the camp there invites you to come participate, invites you to come enjoy the nature there, especially in winter. It's magical. And we're also very interested in what is going to how it is going to impact communities and citizens who live far out the road, people who often chose to be far out the road in that part of the world, to understand how this impacts them. But most of all, I am just here as a resident and happy to facilitate. I would like to share some words given to me from the Southeast Alaska Conservation Council about the reason for this event, and then we are going to begin our panels. Cascade Point, as it's called, Da Shanak, originally, this land north of Juneau at Berners Bay is the confluence of both public and private development plans. We're here to talk about the part related to the public, about the state's role in the Cascade Point ferry terminal, which is a part of those plans. That is a transportation infrastructure project being funded by the Alaska Department of Transportation under the Dunleavy administration, despite widespread public opposition. We can't talk about this project without also talking about the private companies who stand to benefit from the publicly funded project. The Department of Transportation's role in this project is constructing a second ferry terminal in addition to the existing Auk Bay ferry terminal. Goldbelt Incorporated will also owns the land on which this second ferry terminal is proposed to be built. The Department of Transportation would also be constructing roads and bridges to the site. Goldbelt Incorporated has already signed an agreement with the state of Alaska, as well as with Canadian junior mining company Grand Portage Resources, which plans to build an ore dock on the same site as the ferry terminal to serve its prospective gold mine, which is located near the terminus of Herbert Glacier. So there's the public part, proposed ferry terminal. There's the private part, which is the dock for the ore from the mine, both on Goldbelt land. A $28.5 million contract for phase 1, which is road building and site prep, was awarded by the state, and it was awarded before public comment was sought. Before the state of Alaska knew if this was a project that residents of Juneau, Haines, and Skagway wanted. Before a feasibility study was published, and despite skepticism from the Alaska Marine Highway Operations Board. Now, with around 92% of public comments on record opposing the state's involvement in the project, with an economic study that suggests major profit to private companies due to the state's involvement, with continued skepticism from the Operations Board and scrutiny from lawmakers, we're essentially being told that the project will move forward, that it is inevitable, and that we just need to hear a better sales pitch. Of the public comments collected recently by the Department of Transportation, again, 92% of comments in opposition, they cited reasons like hazardous road and water conditions, like safety and access issues for emergency services, like an inconvenient location for a ferry terminal, leading to members of the public having to take on extra costs, hassles, and danger in their journeys, like public money being spent to surreptitiously benefit private industry, and like compromising lost federal transportation match funds to the tune of in the neighborhood of $600 million that could have been matched to a project to improve access to Juneau. Perhaps you have seen the abundant local news coverage or caught the fiery Senate and House Transportation Committee hearings from February 12th, when legislators put the Department of Transportation to task about fiscal and procedural missteps. Or maybe you're just hearing about this for the first time this evening, but either way, we are glad you're here participating in the public process. Which voices have the Department of Transportation not yet invited to the table? Whose perspectives have been sidelined while planning and permitting progress toward breaking ground this year, this summer, despite public opposition and widespread skepticism about the state's involvement in this project, as well as their own economic report? Welcome to this alternative public hearing. This is the public gathering to share what we think about this. We are here discussing the balancing of public and private interests, right? Private corporations play their role, but so do the public, so does the government, so do nonprofits, so do all of these entities structured differently. And when we see something happening and we want that balance to shift between who takes what responsibility, who takes what risk, and who pays which consequences, that's when sometimes we have to decide to make our voices heard. And I'm very grateful to live in a community where people care so much about this process. So again, thank you for being here tonight. We'll begin with a Tribal Voices panel, and then we'll hear from a second panel offering concrete details and updates about where the project is now and how you can comment or otherwise influence the process. We're also offering specific concrete ways that you can register your feelings, learn more, or continue to get updates. Those will be here in the room, and we'll make sure that you can engage in those later tonight after we learn a little bit more about the project from the voices, again, that we need to hear. We hope that you will make your feelings known by signing, by commenting, by leaving a video comment before the end of the evening, and we'll also have time for you to take the microphone at the end of the night. But as with any good process, first, we listen and we learn. So with that, I would like to welcome our Tribal Voices panel. So please welcome some of the folks that we're most eager to hear from tonight. Seikuni, Fran Houston, Kase, Naomi Michelson, Shagunasta, Bob Sam, and Nath Jones Hotch Jr. Please join me on stage. These are the lineal descendants of Dashanak, Berners Bay, whose ancestors lived on these lands and waters, stewarding the abundance for future generations to keep balance and to protect what is sacred. Without further ado, I'll turn it over to Seikuni, Fran Houston, tribal spokesperson for the Akwán.
Oh, I've been waiting for this for how many days? So I'm a little bit on the shaky side, but that's okay. It's normal. My Tlingit name is Seikuni. Raven Moedi, Hlinedi, which is the Dog Salmon clan, from the Yuktahit. The Yuktahit is our clan house. It stands for the Big Dipper House. Our first village was out there at Akrek. And it's like with what Lyle had mentioned earlier, our territory is from Berners Bay all the way down the end of Seymour Canal, which is down the end of the channel here, Juneau and Douglas. And we've been here for many years. Akrek was our first village, and as time went on and we had first contact, then we had miners come to our village. And what they wanted back then was to have the menfolk come and work in the mines. So we moved from Akrek, and we came to downtown Juneau, which is a hop and a skip behind this building here. And from what I understand, they needed the menfolk to work at the mines and the children to go to the schools. And that's how that started. The Juneau Indian Village was the last place that we moved to. Prior to that, I heard that we had to move 4 times because of mining. We were in Douglas for a while. Then we had to move where the tram is. And we had to move there because that's when AJ Mine was happening. And then we moved to another place. We were in Douglas too for a wee bit. I forgot to mention that. But the final place was the Juneau Indian Village. But I do want to mention that we were notified by the city a few years back. And the city wanted to talk with my mother, but my mother was not well. And what they wanted to do is they were going to ask permission to rename this area, the district. Not the village, the district. And they got the permission. I told my mother about it. So now it's considered as the Ak Village District. That's where we're sitting right now. So I want to state that with the my grandmother, Bessie Fasaya, I know back in her day, she was our matriarch, that she had dealt, I think, at that time with Sierra on Berners Bay. So that goes back many, many decades. So that was a lot that was going on back then because development. They were talking about development. So as time went by, when my grandmother stepped down, my mother stepped in, Rosa Miller. And she did everything possible to protect Berners Bay. And I think 2 times it kept coming up, wanting to build the road. And those times I was with my mother at the time. So I learned from my grandmother, Bessie Visaya, and I learned from my mother, Rosa Miller. And we've been doing our best to protect Berners Bay. And with the development, even back then with the road, that would have meant destroying areas in Berners Bay. So, real long story short, it got quiet for a while. With this last one, at that time it was former Governor Walker. That kind of got put on hold. So we didn't hear anything for over 15 years or more. And here we are. We're back to square one. But this time, I heard 5 things are happening or going to happen, development of Berners Bay. I want to mention many times I heard my grandmother, Bessie, and my mother, Rosa, mention there were 7 villages, 7 grave sites. And Berners Bay was used for hunting, fishing. The list goes on. But now what's happening is this development. All this is going to happen. And you know what? It's going to destroy Berners Bay. It's going to destroy where the salmon run. Timber, they're thinking about timber. What's going to happen with that? And so you have the ferry terminal. Why do we need that? We're how many miles away from Ock Bay Ferry Terminal? It doesn't make sense. It's a waste of money. They could be using it to improve our ferry system that we've had for many years. And right now it's not being used because the ships are at dry dock. What's with that? It could be used. So to me, it's like it was given to us, and I'm going from community to community to community. It was like a highway. Now it's going to be taken away. And right now, the outlying communities are suffering. So not too happy with that. I can't even go to Huna, to my father's people, because I can't afford a plane ride. And with the ferry terminal, the ferry running, if I went there, it might take a week or 2 weeks before I can come back home. But who can afford a flight? It's too expensive. So I don't get to see my family. And that hurts. And I can go on, and I'm very passionate about how I feel about Berners Bay. And I'm going to try and tell you a story of what I experienced about Berners Bay, because it is pretty powerful, very powerful. To me it was. We went there one time in a catamaran. Went ashore. I kind of wandered off. Of course, I got bawled out for wandering off. Maybe it was because I was an elder. I don't know. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk with our ancestors and let them know why we were there. So I did that. And after I explained to the ancestors why we were there, I asked for a sign. Can you give me a sign that you heard me? And you know what appeared at that time? This is a true story. Is 2 eagles flew on 2 trees. They sat there the whole entire time we were in Berners Bay. And it wasn't an hour. I think it was like 2 hours we were there. Those eagles did not move. But as soon as we got on board on the catamaran, we started to move. And as soon as we were leaving, guess what? The eagles left. So that is pretty powerful, very magical. And the ancestors were watching over us. And I totally believe in that. And if anybody says anything different, that's my story. And I treasure it because I know the ancestors are there. So right now, as to what's going on, not too happy, and I'm sure there's other people such as I aren't too happy. There's other ways of doing things, but why destroy Berners Bay? When I heard about what was going to be happening in there, oh my God, I had nightmares for about 2-3 nights on what it's going to look like in the future. It's going to look like a dump. And you know what? To us, and I'm sure with other outlying communities that use that area, it's considered, not only is it sacred, but it's our way of life. We use that area for hunting, fishing. And if they build these bridges, guess what? Salmons aren't going to run anymore. So there goes that fishing industry. And with the grave sites, what's going to happen to that? That's going to destroy ancestors that are buried in there. The list goes on. So I just wanted to share that because that meant a whole lot to me. I mean, I've heard stories of what the ancestors, what the grandmas used to talk about Berners Bay. They sounded interesting, but it didn't make sense until it happened to me. Now I understand. I totally understand. And I'll do what it takes, and I want to say thank you to SEAC for being there. I know at the time when my mother was still with us, they represented, they stood by us. And so I just wanted to share that and just want to thank them for letting me know what's going on. But you know what? My last word is going to be, don't destroy Berners Bay. Don't destroy it. It's the last beautiful place that we have. And I also want to add, when we had first contact, guess what? It was take away from us our way of life. And it's still happening today. So Gunuk Chish for allowing me to speak. Thank you.
Kase yuchat diwasak, dao de u yuchat diwasak, wishkitan nachat titi, tus hit ayachat, ak kwan awe yuhan, dakdain tan yari. My Tlingit name is Kase, after my grandmother, and Dao de u after my great grandmother. And I am Wishkitan from the Shark House. And where our ancestral home for the Wishkitan is the Berners Bay, Dakanach. My father's people are from Huna, Dakdain Tan, and I'm also Filipino and Japanese as well. And I would like to have my mom raise her hand a little. My mom is here. She made it here this week, Andriana. And also my aunt, Angie, is here as well. And Angie lives here in Juneau. Ever since I was little, I grew up learning and hearing about Berners Bay. And it wasn't until maybe, was that about 5 years ago, Colleen? I was able to go out there on a boat for the first time. And it was, I can't really even explain it because we love this place so much. We hadn't been able to get out there before. And me and some of our other family and our opposites were also there. But Lyle and Colleen were there with Leona, singing us in to Berners Bay. And when we got to a corner before we made a turn, I was outside and I started to cry. And I knew where I was. I knew where I was, and I had never been there before. And so it's in our DNA, these beautiful sacred areas, our lands. It's in our history. And we're so fortunate to share this beautiful place with all of you. And I know you're here because you care as much. And so it's really kind of surreal to actually be talking tonight and about Berners Bay, the place where most of my family has never been able to go. And it is our, like I said, our homelands, the Wishkitan. This place carries our history, the mountains, every area, all the areas around it are sacred. Lions Mountain, Spirit Mountain. The place where the parking lot is proposed is obviously a village site with almost 100 CMTs, the culturally modified trees, middens, burial, petroglyphs, so many. The land is provided for us. Our foods, I can't. A funny story is my nickname when I was younger. I was a preemie, and so I was born a couple weeks early. So I had to be in an incubator, and they told my mom I had to, was going to need to eat a little bit more often. So I might eat every 4 hours, but I eat every 2 hours. And so people in my family know I love to eat, and I love our foods. It's really our medicine, and we're so lucky to live here because we have all of our foods, our medicines. We have everything that we need here. We just need to work together. We need to take care of this place. And so my nickname became Guppy because I ate all the time. And so our family, Auntie Angie's family, our family, we have a big family here in Juneau, and really all over. And we were known for putting up these foods. We are known for taking care of the area in Berners Bay, and I feel like we still do that, even though I didn't personally grow up there. I've been able to see Berners Bay in ceremony. I saw things that happened in the past because I wanted to know, and it was very painful. And I was in more than one ceremony, and I thought I didn't really think I could make it on day 2, the second ceremony, but I did. And it was very horrific to see what happened to our people and the place, and it's still happening. The desecration of our sacred area and the cultural sites, the destruction not only to the petroglyphs and the land and the area, but removal of our shaman grave sites. And our families have worked together for a long time to protect these areas. And when in the 70s, when the grave sites were being looted and things were being stolen, we came together, the Occoquan, and we put some things in the museum, the shaman shark screen. And we've also worked together to repatriate remains that were brought back and reburied, unearthed human remains. And so it's nothing that you'd want our children to do. But this is what we do because it's our responsibility to take care of this place. And because we know that our ancestors are always with us and they're watching us. They see, and our children see. And so we have to do our best to make this our legacy. And I do not believe that a ferry terminal is going to be our legacy. Our legacy is to protect that area so that we can tell our children and show our children who they are and where they come from. And I don't believe in any of the cultural survey or paperwork that I've read so far has even mentioned the Occoquan people. I didn't see Wishkitan anywhere in any of the paperwork so far. And I also know that there hasn't been the required government-to-government or tribal consultation with any of us. And so we're requesting that as well, to be at the table when they're talking about our sacred lands, regardless of who owns the land. One of my mentors, and I see Kai here, we're connected, maybe more of us are connected to Rita Blumenstein, and she was a traditional healer, and she said many things, and she's still teaching me today, even though she's gone. But she said that we forget who we are, and that is the cause of our illness. And so we can't let our children forget who we are and our grandchildren. And so when we stand here together, we're not only healing our ancestors when we make the right decisions, we're healing our grandchildren as well in our future. And I believe we need to do all this together. And so I also would like to say thank you to SEAC for bringing us together with such care. And I feel very supported and loved by the work that that you're doing. I'm learning as we go, and but I don't feel that this is going to be maybe we'll be working at this for a while, but we are here. And as a grandmother, I have 9 grandchildren. I feel like this is my calling, is to protect our cultural resources, our natural resources. There's a herring run, and I love herring eggs. There's used to be a lot of more abundance than there is today, hunting and fishing. And I'm also a plant person, and so I know that plants are our relatives. And those trees that are culturally modified have stories. And it's obviously a village site with all those CMTs and the middens with the shells and the charcoal. And in villages, you find burial grounds nearby. And so I believe that our DNA was placed in those trees. And many of those trees, our people were placed in them. So many things that we could learn, and I know I don't have much time, but I would also like to say that the regional ferry service, I'm a village girl, and I grew up in many villages in Alaska, and I know our neighbors and our relatives in Cake and Angoon, Hoona, and many of these other places rely on the blue canoe. We rely on the ferry services to help us get to where we need to go for medical, for all these things. And so we used to have a ferry run to Prince Rupert, and we don't have that anymore. And I would say if we do anything, we could strengthen those systems for our neighbors first. We don't need another ferry terminal 40 miles from here. It doesn't make sense, and we know it's not for our people. We're not our people are not going to benefit from this project. So I would also like to thank my Hlinedi opposites. I am honored to sit between Bob and Fran, and also feel very supported by our family from the Chilkat, from the Klakwan area, who are also, well, you'll get to hear, but also connected, and really we are all connected. So thank you again. There has been enough desecration of our areas. We want to be good ancestors, and we are still here. We are still here. Gunukshish.
It'll take a few minutes for me to prepare myself. My uncle would say, Robert, if you have something important to say, stand up. Make your voice strong. So I prepared myself to make my voice strong. And I also have to read from my notes. My name is Bob Sam. I'm going to speak English tonight. I caretake human remains, restore forgotten cemeteries, and ensure that indigenous human remains take their rightful place in society. One of my lifetime achievements is the Journey Back Home project. In 1998, a Sitka airport expansion brought attention to 138 Alaska Natives buried in a mausoleum. We identified each one, found the lineal descendants, and sent them home. All the entities that were involved with this project offered condolences with dignity, respect, and honor. At the time, it was the largest repatriation in American history. In 2004, National Congress of American Indians nominated this project best practices for government-to-government relations. Partnerships can achieve the highest success by recognizing each other's strengths and just getting to know each other. Due to the time constraints of tonight and respect for lineal descendants, I'm going to go back to the subject of Berners Bay. We are Tlingit. Tlingit means human being. So we are human being, just like you. The definition of a human being is how we take care of our dead. This sets us aside as unique beings with mortuary responsibility. How we care for the dead is humanity. It is the duty of lineal descendants to be the caretakers of ancestral human remains directly connected to their lineage. A lineal descendant is a person who can trace ancestry directly and continuously through a kinship system of an Alaska tribe or through common law descent to a known individual. This includes those present testifying with respect to human remains, funerary objects, or other sacred items associated with their ancestry. We have ancestors associated with Berners Bay. There is a boundary that goes from Young Bay all the way to the south of Berners Bay. My grandfather, great-grandfather, Kauai, lived in Berners Bay. As he got older, moved to Auk Bay, where my mother was born. There was an older Kauai buried in Berners Bay. Lieutenant George Emmons took this grave sold it to the American Museum of Natural History in New York in the Smithsonian Institute. Kauai's funerary objects and his body were on display. In my heart, in my soul, I made a promise to bring him home. Lieutenant George Emmons wrote a book called The Tlingit Indians. And in that book, a listing of all the funerary objects taken from Berners Bay are listed. I am a direct lineal descendant of both Kauai and Lieutenant George Emmons. George Emmons was my father's grandfather. And on my mother's side, Kauai was my mother's great-grandfather. My Tlingit name is Shagunasta. It translates to mountain dweller, a mountain goat with a human face and a face of gold. Mountain dweller taught human beings how to respect the dead. Mountain goats can see how human beings treat each other. One day, Kauai climbed a mountain, got caught by the mountain goat people, and became one of them. Put glue on horns and glued those horns onto his head. And his face became golden, and his body became a mountain goat. The human beings, they looked for him every day. Finally, they got dogs to capture and bring him home. He became human again and became very powerful. They gave Kauai another name. This name, Shagunasta. My Tlingit name is Shagunasta. So I am a direct lineal descendant of the grave that was taken from Berners Bay. Berners Bay has a deep spiritual connection with gold among the Wushkitan and Tlinadi, who are the original inhabitants of this land. The Aquan are one of the few tribes in all of America that has a connection with gold. If Columbus came here, he would find something totally different. There are also maiden sites, fort sites, gardens, and ancient human remains still undiscovered in Berners Bay. This indicates a larger population likely existed in ancient time. Up until statehood, Berners Bay was the breadbasket. Most Alaskans lived off the land. The Aquan and neighboring villages utilized Berners Bay since ancient time, building roads, bridges, and this supposedly new ferry terminal will disturb sacred places, possibly displacing human remains and the sacredness of this place. Kauai's clan house is got a hit. Trapstick House. Teal hit the Dog Salmon people and got a hit Trapstick people migrated from Haida. We traveled up by canoe all the way to Juneau. And along the way, we built fish traps at every major river and stream all the way up to Juneau. When dog salmon come up river, they use their tails to sweep away the big rocks. And make a home. And they guard it with their life. And when a female comes up, the male would say, "Come here, honey." When humans built fish traps, they place a trapstick in the river. This trapstick has to be strong, almost supernatural, to hold the fish trap in the river. These fish traps, the ancient fish traps, can still be seen today. But all that remains is the trapstick in the river. That's why we use the trapstick as our emblem. When a salmon goes up a river and sees the fish trap, they see the trapstick. And on top of that trapstick is a sacred carving. And when the salmon sees this carving, the trapstick will say, "Come here, honey." And that is why those of us who fish, we talk to our bait. Today, ancient fish traps are still found. Trapsticks remain. During difficult times, Berners Bay will provide food and water for the surrounding communities. Some things are worth more than gold. The majority of the people in Alaska, in Southeast Alaska, you know we oppose the ferry. A majority of us. Too many to put aside. So our voices are heard tonight. And our voices are strong. Why? Because we are living right now in difficult times. We cannot afford food, restaurants, tips. We cannot afford to live in our own homeland. So Berners Bay right now is going to be our breadbasket. So important. We don't have money, but we have crab, halibut, king crab, abalone, dry fish. You can't beat it. And that's what's going to sustain us today. One day I asked my mother about the Depression and about how poor it was back then. And she said, we didn't even know about the Depression. We had the best food, and we lived in our own home. So this week, let's eat our own food. There is much more that we could say. There is more than just a ferry terminal. Let's call it for what it is. It needs more consultation with federally recognized tribes, along with lineal descendants who have a duty and responsibility to protect, defend, and monitor their ancestral lands and waters. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the panelists of lineal descendants who are taking their rightful place in society. We appreciate your support. Ganeshtish Ho! 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 I have dedicated my life to protect ancestors, sacred places. I am willing to die. I will give my life to protect Berners Bay. Ganeshtish Wushkiton. Ganeshtish Ak Kwan. Ganeshtish humanity for how we treat each other. That's really what it's about. I'm human being just like you. Thank you.
Anyat Kusani, Anyat Kusani, most honorable and noble people, I want to start this way. Hoo, hoo. When you do that for a while, Elder told me, it's something that's heavy. I do not take this time, this privilege lightly to speak to you tonight. This is truly heavy upon our hearts and our minds and our soul and on our way of life, which we hold dearly I'll speak to the Chilkat Valley because I know that. The Chilkat Valley watershed. What they have done for us for many centuries. They have fed us. They have clothed us. Wild stock salmon spawn in our rivers. Getting to be able to pick blueberries, cranberries, soapberries. It's harder to find soapberries now. And I was talking to an elder one time. I told him I was very excited. We picked almost 2 cups of salmon berries. I was on top of the world to make that statement. He told me we used to have lots of salmon berries. That 18-mile stretch. When the Army put in that pipeline for World War II, I believe, they used that spray and kill all the salmon berries. This is how it seems to me. Little by little, our way of life is being chipped away. Our way of life is our life. Period. There is no other life that I'd rather have. There's so many reasons why I do what I do. My father's from the Brown Bear House in Cluckwan. He had a heart condition, but he still commercial fished. He went by the tender and told him, my heart's acting up. They tried to talk him into staying there, tied up till help can come. He said, no, I'm going to try to go to the cannery. He didn't make it there. I believe he was steering and he fell. And he's still hanging on to the steering wheel. And he's going in circles. My mother, she got a disease that I have a very special feeling towards. One of the last things she told her workers when she could still speak, just take me close to the river. I just want to hear the river. That may have been the last English words that she said. There are significant concerns regarding Cascade Point ferry terminal project for multiple reasons. Most importantly, the state appears to be moving forward with construction and contracting before completing sufficient feasibility, cultural, and environmental reviews in compliance with federal laws. Clear legal obligations under NEPA, NHPA, NAGPRA, ANILCA, the Clean Water Act, and all the federal trust responsibilities have not been met. Further advancing this project before demonstrating the project's justification and need, while simultaneously tying the project's feasibility to future road expansions, the new Amalga mine development, ore shipping facilities, and the Chilkat connector proposal. None of these which have undergone adequate federal and state reviews is a grave concern. For those reasons, we strongly oppose the DOT and PF advancement of the Cascade Point project until a lawful, complete, tribal-informed review is performed. Bernice Bay is important to many Tlingit communities on the Lynn Canal. Chilkat people living along the canal to the top of Bernice Bay to Stonehouse Creek. That's our traditional land. 2.6 million acres. That's what we had one time. And now we are reduced to under 2,000. The Lynn Canal is an interconnected ecological and cultural system. The Cascade Point project fails to account for the integrated ecological and cultural systems that define the Lynn Canal. Bernice Bay does not function as an isolated area. Rather, it is part of a continuous marine, coastal, and watershed system that supports the subsistence, cultural practices, and ecological process extended throughout the northern Lynn Canal into Chilkoot and Chilkat watersheds. Everything is important, no matter how big, no matter how small. Just think of how many pieces in your skin hold your body together. The Cascade Point Ferry Terminal is not an isolated project. The state of Alaska has repeatedly treated the Cascade Point Ferry Terminal as part of a broader transportation and industrial corridor in the northern Lynn Canal, rather than a standalone project. Public records, agency statements, and planning documents demonstrate that the project's justification, feasibility, and anticipated use are explicitly tied to the other proposed actions that have not undergone federal environmental reviews. This is what I'm going to say now is my personal opinion. The name Chilkat Connector. To me, to use that name, Chilkat Connector, Chilkat connected with connector, is offensive to me. I am a tribal member of Chilkat Indian Village, Klakwat. You heard of Chilkat blankets. And Chilkat and Tlingit. It's a container for salmon. The way they have Chilkat Connector in here just violates everything to me, or salmon. That is my personal opinion. This project is about roads to resources without fully considering how it impacts our way of life. They only may have to adequately consider the impacts to our way of life is to meet with the tribal government and tribal leaders and have a full and complete meeting. The days of any government coming, for example, to Cluckwan, Chilkat Indian Village, Cluckwan. We went there. Now we want to hold your feet to what you're supposed to be doing. Fulfilling your obligations as it is written in the books. NAGPRA, all these are federal laws that are in the books. And you must start now to fulfill your obligations to it. Igo ayakwan. Igo ayakwan. All of us. Our elders are standing with us that went before us. That's what they're telling us. You're standing up for us. You're standing up for us. Igo ayakwan. Igo ayakwan. My grandchildren, you're doing good. Keep it up. I feel this very strongly. Those that are doing it now, you know who you are, you're here. What you're doing, how you are, is like a diamond. It has many sides to it. There's Elizabeth Peradovich Day, we celebrated recently. Some generations might not know about her. But they're seeing all of you doing what you're doing in your villages, in your towns, and you're setting an example for them. And this one too, I believe, with everything that I have, there will be a crisis coming. It would be like panic. And those that are here, you have a voice and you will use it to calm our people down and say, we have been ready for this day. Igo ayakwan. If I run out of time, you can throw a shoe at me. And I'll say you missed. A full EIS and compliance with Section 106 are required. We have not seen any study, any reports, or any justification for pushing this project forward. The Cascade Point project triggers the justification and responsibilities of multiple federal agencies, including the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, NOAA, Fisheries, and U.S. Fish and Wildlife? Fish and Wildlife Service, and the Advisory Council of Historic Preservation. The absence of a coordinated, comprehensive review heightens the risk of fragment decision-making and inconsistent findings, further reinforcing the necessity of a single integrated EIS process. Konnichiwa. Konnichiwa.
Thank you. Thank you. We're going to invite our additional panelists to join us on stage. We were going to transition, but instead we're going to have them all join us so that we can move into the portion of the evening where we start hearing from you. I'm going to invite our panelists to join us. Stacy Unzicker, mining campaigner with Southeast Alaska Conservation Council. Also Tyler Breen, the policy analyst for the Southeast Alaska Conservation Council. Margaret Custer, executive director of the Southeast Alaska Land Trust. And Richard Karstensen, naturalist. Rich Moniak, civil engineer with experience in this area. I'm going to ask each of them to give us just about 1 minute, 2 minutes on their role and what they know about where the project is at this point. After that, we're going to invite you guys to participate. So, before you see, I see people starting to move already. I'm going to give you some specific instructions after these introductions. So stay tuned, and then we're going to start inviting your input, not just here on mic where we can hear you in the room, but also in lasting ways where we can submit it to the Department of Transportation, to the city, to the other decision-making bodies who have authority. Oh, please remain with us if that's all right. We want people to be able to ask you questions as well. That's all right. Mm-hmm. Yes, if you're able to. Mm-hmm. We'll do our best to direct decisions, direct questions to specific speakers. All right. First, can I invite you guys to introduce yourselves? Stacy, are we able to start with you? Mm-hmm.
Hi. Betsy's going to turn me on in just one moment.
Check, check, check.
Check, check, check. Thank
There
you,
we are.
Betsy. Thank you,
Thank you,
Betsy,
Stacy.
with Studio A for running sound for us.
Thank you, Betsy.
My name is Stacy Unzicker, and as Marion just alluded to, I'm the mining campaigner at SEAC, and I will just keep it brief to that.
Hello, I'm Tyler Breen. I'm the policy analyst at SEAC. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here tonight. I'm Margaret Custer. I'm the executive director at the Southeast Alaska Land Trust. The Land Trust owns and stewards about 240 acres of conservation lands in the Herbert River watershed, which will be directly impacted by expansion of the new Amalga mine and also the ore haul route to take the ore out to Cascade Point for shipment. We consider ourselves partners with SEAC and also with the Ocquan, and care very much about taking care of these lands in our care. Thank you.
I'm Richard Karstensen. I'm a longtime local naturalist, and I think I'm here more to learn than I am to talk, but I have pretty deep history out in the valleys that we're talking about, and would be happy to answer questions about natural, and to the extent that cultural and natural history fit together. That's been my interest for a long time.
Yeah, I'm Rich Moniak. I've been in Juneau for 35 years and retired a little while ago from a career of 35 years of engineering, civil engineering, where I was involved with bridges, roads, facilities, with the Coast Guard and 4 other public agencies.
Check, check, check. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I would like, Rich, could you tell us just a little bit more about, from a DOT perspective, what we can expect from this point where funding has been approved and a contractor has been appointed and they plan to break ground this summer? What do we know anything about, like, what the expected trajectory would be between now and summer if they were somehow to move on their expected schedule?
Wait, one correction. Sorry.
correction? Sorry.
Update. my update function is that during the House and Senate Transportation Committee hearings, DOT has now said that the original thing that they were broadcasting for breaking ground this summer is now delayed to this fall. So that's new as of February 12th.
Immediate updates. Thank you. Thank you. Rich, back to you. What do those steps look like between, for example, granting a contract and breaking ground? For those of us who don't know anything about that DOT process.
I'm not going to be able to speak to that, really. I haven't been in touch with DOT on it. I know the project's been delayed. I don't think this project ever had any intent not to go forward. It was pretty much a go from the time Governor Dunleavy decided it was a go. One of the things I wanted to speak to was how DOT knowingly misled the Alaska Marine Highway Operation Board during a couple of meetings. One in particular where they were asked, what the cost of this project was. The future deputy commissioner threw out a number of $35 million. Said that they didn't have a current estimate, but several months earlier, the STIP, the Southeast Alaska the State Transportation Plan, had a figure from October 2023, 6 months earlier, that was $76 million. So they didn't disclose that for a reason. She was also asked if there were any roads associated with this project, and she was told that the roads were already there, which is also not true. She had the benefit of an early analysis done by Kirk Miller in 2019 that said the road from Bessie Creek, which is in the Aldershime area, all the way to Echo Cove, needed to be upgraded. They can put that off. It's not as wide as the road from Auk Bay all the way to Aldershime. If you remember in 2013, 2014, the road from Eagle Beach to the Aldershime area was widened. They did a lot of rock blasting. That was probably to straighten the alignment out. Those projects would not have been done if under normal engineering processes, because they weren't driven by safety or traffic demand. The traffic was less than 200 vehicles a day. That project you might think of as a down payment on remember the road to Katsahine, Upland Canal? That was done to avoid I think anyways, to not have to put that cost in the other project, so that it was easier to sell. This time what DOT, I think, is doing is delaying these projects. In both cases, they're not giving the public, the legislature, or the Marine Highway Operation Board the information they need to evaluate a long life cycle cost. They're leaving all those capital costs out.
All right, so we're essentially lacking a great deal of information about how these decisions were arrived at and what the actual numbers are.
I'm sorry?
Sorry, we're lacking a lot of information about what the costs are and how these decisions were arrived at with numbers as widely varying as those.
Yeah.
And
Lois Epstein has worked in Alaska transportation issues. She's an engineer for more than 20 years. She estimates the cost right now is about $120 million. And that's not including, I don't think Kirk Miller's estimate included widening the Cowee Creek Bridge to the same standard the highway would be. Mm-hmm. I don't think included straightening out the curves between Aldershime and Sunshine Cove. So and she did not include those. Lois didn't include those either. Another thing that's going to happen that's actually going to drive this even more now from a safety point of view is the mine. If you've got mining trucks going up and down the road with ferry traffic at the same time, and the ferry traffic will people driving to and from the ferry terminal will be in surges. So there'll be it'll be like a rush hour a couple of times a day. The Herbert River Bridge is not, if you drove, everybody here I'm sure has driven over that, it's not as wide as the road. That normally could wait to get replaced, or widened for quite a bit of time because there's no traffic. You know, who's paying for that? If the state pays for that, it's the mine driving it. The mine should pay for it. And the mine has already expressed a lot of gratitude that the state's going to do all this work for them.
Right. I want to start the process of opening to room comments. And to make this work, we're going to have to remember all the the best practices we learned back in school. So we have a mic at which folks can line up. At the same time, we're going to ask that we keep the room quiet so we can hear our speakers at the mic and hear our respondents. At the same time, while you listen, we have space for you to make comments. There are 3 stations in the room and there's 1 station out of the room. Let me explain. The first station here is for us to share our recorded thoughts on the impacts this is going to have on our individual human and cultural use of the spaces that are already out the road. That is for us to share our collected knowledge with each other and with SEAC. At the next table is a petition that is directed at the City and Borough of Juneau. The City and Borough of Juneau's involvement in this is somewhat minor, but at the same time, they respond to the community, and the community's opinions will matter to the Assembly. And so the petition is there and available to sign. There is also, the DOT has said that they will accept comments from us at any point during the process. And so there are QR codes and links back there for people to be able to, so that you can comment directly to the DOT. Your comment does go through SEAC's website, and that's so that we can verify the information, but it does get passed on to DOT so that you don't have to enter it twice, essentially. And at the end, you can sign up for SEAC's newsletter to be updated specifically on this issue, so you can keep tabs on what is going on. And out in the lobby, in the staff office there, you can see there's some space where you'd have to queue up outside the door, because inside the door, we're going to be recording short videos, 30-second videos. Kaylee here is going to be taking care of that. Kayla, sorry, is going to be taking care of that, recording short videos so that we can make a film expressing the opinions of the people here tonight. So if you wish, you can comment here. We will have some panelists respond. We're going to keep both comments and responses to around a minute, and we're going to ask for only 1 or 2 panelists to respond to each comment or question. We also can simply move through public comments. You, as participants, can also visit each station as you have time and record a video comment for an enduring impact. Sign up for the newsletter so you know what's happening with this issue and when and where to apply pressure, and sign the existing petitions. All right, so feel free to move about the room. Please be quiet as you do so that folks in the room and on the live stream can still hear. And if you wish to line up at the microphone, please give your name as you're commenting, and give us about a minute of question or comment.
My name is Davey Strong. My Tlingit name is Nukokawu. You got to talk. Kanak Tedi, I got hit the I have a question for Mr. Hutch. What would you like to see from the state of Alaska after all that has been said? What would you like to see happen? Cheesh.
Number 1, suspend construction and contracting activities associated with Cascade Point Ferry Terminal until all required federal environmental and cultural reviews are completed in compliance with applicable law. And number 2, initiate early, meaningful, and ongoing government-to-government consultation with tribal leaders. And for home, it will be the Chilkat Indian Village Cluckwin Tribal Council. And ongoing, where tribal input can inform project purposes, alternatives, siting and avoidance of mitigation of impacts. Number 3, prepare a full environmental impact statement evaluating the Cascade Point ferry terminal, together with all connected cumulative actions, including related transportation infrastructure, foreseeable industrial use, and increased marine traffic in the Northern Link Canal.
Gunuk Chish, we're at time. I'm going to invite our next question.
Number 4, expand the area of potential effects to encompass upland, intertribal, and marine environmental associated transportation corridors consistent with a full scope of reasonable, foreseeable, direct, indirect, and cumulative actions. Initiate consultant under Section 106, consultation with Chilkadin Village as a consultant tribe with tribal leaders.
Gunuk
Complete
Chish, I'm sorry to
updated
interrupt. We're
cultural
going
resources.
to invite our next question. Sorry. Go on ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Representative Stutz, and I have the honor of having been the creator of the legislation that created the AmHub board. And I am here to say that, to let you know that we're aware that there's been a very poor process that has transpired in what has happened thus far, and that there are many of us legislators, and I'm here with the co-chair of our Transportation Committee as well, that it is problematic, and we recognize that it is problematic, and I want you to know that.
Gunuk Chish. Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Bailey. I'm also with the Southeast Alaska Land Trust. I have a question from someone who is a Juneau resident who's watching this on YouTube. She cites the outright criticism or lack of support from the Alaska Marine Highway Operations Board, members of the public, and some elected representatives. And she asked a question that I'm really glad because it's been on my mind as well. At what points do public input, legislative oversight, or recommendations from bodies like the Operations Board meaningfully influence whether the project proceeds, changes, or stops? Specifically, if the Alaska Department of Transportation and Public Facilities continues planning work despite criticism and missing cost details, what formal process, like budget approval, legislative action, or agency review, ultimately determines whether Cascade Point is built? If they're not listening to us, what can we do?
Tyler, is that for you? Yeah.
I'll take that. So when we gave testimony on February 12th, we went through a timeline that actually highlights a little bit of what you mentioned here, and that's the AmHub review of the long-range plan, which they conditionally approved in April of 2025, but then when they re-reviewed the final plan that was presented to them, they noted that there was a functional change in the language that shifted from Cascade Point being listed as a project under feasibility assessment to one essentially communicating that it had been a conclusion that the decision had been made to move forward with construction. And so they had already elicited a request for a more rigorous economic study for which the Ed King analysis, they said in their corrective action letter, did not satisfy. That corrective action request should have initiated a review. However, the signing of the contract, the design-build contract, essentially pre-initiated the momentum for this project. That was a fundamental misstep in my assessment. Currently, the Department of Transportation has filed for a Clean Water Act 404 permit. They filed that on February 4th. That triggers the federal nexus requiring a NEPA assessment and Section 106 assessment. So tribal consultation needs to occur. NEPA needs to occur. The fundamental purpose of NEPA is not only to assess what the potential impacts are, but the potential alternatives. And so by signing a contract prior to those alternatives analyses, that is a fundamental point where DOT has presumed the outcome and moved forward under the assumption that this project will move forward. So as the public, keeping your eye out for the notice of intent of the NEPA process and then engaging in public comment on that federal NEPA process is where you can get involved.
Can you define NEPA for us real quick?
Sorry, that is the National Environmental Protection Act policy.
All right, thank you. So in layman's terms, I'm a musician, what I'm hearing is essentially that this was moved from hypothetical to planned in a document without a clear chain of essentially of the usual things in between, and then a contract was signed before some of the usual processes were undergone. Is that correct? And now we're looking for remedy through those processes, even if they're happening belatedly?
Yes, and sorry, it's a rather complex situation that has occurred. This project was not in the original form that it was approved in the STIP was not the footprint that we see today, and so changes were made afterwards, and so there's a lot of missteps procedurally that we continue to advocate for, like when Tyler went and spoke and gave testimony, invited testimony in both the House and Senate Transportation Committees, and we continue trying to talk with tribal partners as well as now you, the public, to help put pressure on decision makers, not only the legislators, but also CBJ, because this is happening within the purview of our city. And so it's right. Rather complex.
So pressure points at this point are the legislature, especially transportation, and the CBJ?
Yes, those are, but also, I mean, DOT, and there's a lot of entities that have their hands in this project, and
Good evening. My name is Guy Archibald, and I understand that environmental impact that is basically a big paper trail of crystal ball rubbing, trying to figure out how a certain action is going to affect the environment for many, many, many years in the future. I believe that performance is based on history. The probability of future actions is based on history. I can think of the Salt Chuck mine down on Prince of Wales where they loaded ore. That is now a Superfund site. The marine environment there, highly contaminated. The Bocan Mountain uranium mine in Kendrick Creek, where they loaded ore out of, is now contaminated in a Superfund site. The Skagway ore loading terminal is now an impaired water body from ore spills. Hawk Inlet, underneath the ore loader at Greens Creek, is a contaminated site and an impaired water body. I'd like to see a show of hands from the panel, what they think if it's a high risk that if they put an ore loader out in Berners Bay, it's going to end up contaminating the marine environment. Could I see a show of hands?
Yeah.
For any listening audience, I believe that was every hand on the panel. Thank you. Go on ahead. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, thanks. My name is Steve Lewis. I've lived in Juneau about 28 years, and I've spent quite a bit of time in Berners Bay. My question is, it seems to me that one entity that stands to gain quite a bit from this is Gold Belt Native Corporation, and I'm just curious, and pardon my naivete on how this all sets up, is if there's a nexus within the corporation for Native people to say, you know, we don't want this project on our land, and or just how that works, you know, how that's broken down. Thank you.
Yeah, is there anyone who can give us some insight into how pressure can be brought within Gold Belt? Including anyone in the room here? Good question. Yeah? Can you come up to the mic? Otherwise, folks online can't hear. So.
Well, I may not be right, but I'll tell you what. I've avoided any kind of shares from any corporation most of my life, 47 now. But there is shareholders here, and people should talk to those shareholders and hold Gold Belt accountable. That's my feelings. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other comment?
I think that I just want to underline something as we've been talking with legislators and people from CBJ and just the general public. I just want to really make a clear delineation that a tribal corporation does not have the same rights they're not owed the same government-to-government federal responsibility and trust rights that a tribe has. And so just being really clear in that delineation of what's a corporation versus what's a tribe is something that for many of us, we maybe didn't grow up with that. And so it's just good to wrap our minds around that. And Gold Belt are the landowners out there, but obviously not the only voice of lineal descendants.
I have found myself curious what kind of pressure corporations of all kinds, Native corporations and others, will respond to in this time. I am curious if anyone has thoughts on what kind of pressure they are likely to hear or respond to.
Money. Corporations care a lot about money. And let's just name the other corporation again that is standing to benefit from this, and that is the Grand Portage Resources, and that is a Canadian junior mining operation. And I started in this position this last April, so I've almost been here a year, and I have had my eyes, the scales have fallen from my eyes. I did not know about what junior mining is, and it is a whole, like, for lack of a better term, it's a Ponzi scheme. And what happens is there are actually 6 billionaires who, like, really all of the mines can be attributed to. There's been some phenomenal studies that have been done to link who owns all of these mines. And there's in Canada, especially in BC and Yukon, there's a very large industry where these junior mining companies, they come in and it's very speculative, it's all prospecting, and it's to get involved in exploration work, trying to drum up shareholder interest and make profits. And honestly, they profit whether the mine ever comes into reality or not. There was one mine that one of our friends, Steve Ellington, studied, and he saw that they never became operational in 40 years, and they all walked away very rich for it because the Canadian taxpayers subsidize this industry of junior mining. So that's another layer here of who is profiting and who's paying, because Canadians are paying.
Margaret, did you have a comment there as well about how to bring pressure on corporate interests?
I think it's important to note that given the 92% of this one will work. Thank you. Given the 92% of respondents, there were more than 1,000 pages of public comments submitted to DOT on Cascade Point during the holidays, I might add. 92% of people said no, this is not something that our community wants or needs. And I think that these companies can see that there is no social license to construct this. Not the ferry terminal, not the expanded mining operations, not the road that is being proposed to come down between the Herbert River and the Eagle River down from the mine on the glacier to Glacier Highway. There's no social license to operate.
By the way, if you want to sign, we have a petition for that. You can join in our commenting tool, because that, for the road easement that Margaret was just referring to, that comment period closes March 13th. So Ray Lynn back there, thanks Ray Lynn for sitting at our table. She can hook you up with where to sign up for that.
Thank you. Can I invite our next audience question?
Well, I'm probably late because my question was also related to what the gentleman before me talked about, is that the two people to gain from this, or two entities, is Gold Belt, who I don't see present and we haven't heard from, and then the Grand Portage, that's who would benefit. But I would like to say thank you all for all your comments, and I would have started that statement with my ignorance of how the Gold Belt Corporation works, because while the Native voices were talking, I was looking up Gold Belt, and everything that you said about what your cultural being and what your how you feel and look at the world, that's part of what Gold Belt's mission is. And so, but I do believe, this is my personal opinion, that money drives that, not necessarily what their cultural position is. But I do want to thank all of you, and I want to thank the transportation representation that is here on that. I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact committee, but thanks for being here and listening to those comments. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. Please.
Anet I hotkaini khoach yukatank konchish yihil kohas yijunich satim. To my grandparents who are sitting up there at this moment, the Klinedi, the Wushkitan, my namesake's children, Takanach Tedi. I've heard your words today. I apologize, I might go a little over my minute, but this is important information. These kinds of decisions we don't take lightly. On this half of the panel, we have folks who have lived here maybe 50 years. We have folks who have started working. This is their livelihood. But this is their life. This is their land. And for us, as guests on their land, to tell them, this is what's going to happen. We're going to grab your grandparents and take them out of the ground and put them someplace else. Those sacred sites that you had at one time, we're going to move them over that way just a little bit. It'll still be here. It may or may not survive that move. We already know what history has told us and what we've seen happen generation after generation. We see what's happening over at Hawk Inlet. We've seen not too long ago what happened in Dakhanak, Berners Bay, when that tailings dam broke and flooded that river. We have seen generations of relatives who have witnessed all of our food be taken away from us. We have seen the decimation of our way of life. My grandparents are up there. They're saying, we have witnessed enough. You are about to take away the last piece of our history. That's what they're telling you. Those of you who are sitting up there probably are not the main decision makers of what's happening. You might be their voices. But we will always remember those names as people who have made the decision to take their land away from them. We are descendants of people who have been destroyed. We are descendants of people who have been tired of our land and our way of life being told it's not enough. We've had our ancestors beaten for speaking our languages. We had our ancestors beaten for practicing our way of life. We're not holding back anymore. This is our land. We have been placed here for generations after generation. They can tell you as far back as the first flood. Sure, everybody knows about the flood, but that was one of them. They can tell you because their ancestors lived through it, because they chose this place as their home. Their territory spans far greater and have lived longer than any of us have walked on this land. For us to tell them, get over it. Well, we've been hearing that for generations. My grandfather, my grandmother, her mother, her grandmother were taken out of their homes at the age of 5. Can you fathom that? Told your way of life is no longer good. You're no longer, you need to be human. Well, I'll tell you what. Douglas Island, one of their homes was burnt down intentionally. She's not too far removed from that. Imagine that. Her mom witnessed people coming into their village as the men were out fishing, trying to make a living, and burnt down that village on purpose. For what? It's a little bit of money. Sure, progress is going to cost us money, but it's going to cost us lives. Did you know that there were children in that village who died because of that burning of the village? Did you know that they have, well, here we go, Americans. They always love to stick that flag on the ground. And I'm not saying America's not worth fighting for, but I'm saying that stake is a representation of America. They have signs and symbols out there that have been here a lot longer than that flag was ever created. We have stories. As a grandchildren of the Clean AD, it is my duty to stand here and tell their stories and how important their history is to this community. It's not just a community to them. It is their home. It is their way of life. And long after many people who decide to move here, they are going to be here still. They're the ones that are going to be having to clean up that mess. And I'm telling you this, they're tired of cleaning up everybody else's messes. They are tired of telling people, stop coming to my home and making a mess. They're asking you politely to please stop. This is their last sacred site. They even told you that this little platform that we stand on here used to be nothing but water. Their beachfront used to be back there. And all for what? Mining? All for progress? Again, they're the ones that had to clean this up. And yet, the only thing that they ask for is respect. That's what they came here to do. This is their home. We are their guests. If somebody came into your home and didn't act like a guest, what would you do? You would ask them to leave. If they left a mess in your home, you would ask them to leave. They're not asking you to leave. They're asking you to be respectful. They're asking you to treat them as though you want to be treated. I stand here at this moment against this here because it does desecrate their home, their last site, their hunting grounds, a place that once provided food. Thank you for listening to me at this time.
Hi, Melanie Brown. I'm carrying forward something that I think is worth considering. My regional corporation is Bristol Bay Native Corporation. And from what I understand, the village corporations hold the surface rights of their lands. And the regional corporations hold the subsurface rights. And there may be inconsistencies from region to region when it comes to regional corporations. But I think it's worth looking into the possibility, even though this rule was intended for mineral exploitation, you know, minerals underground, oil and gas that might be found underground. Why can't it be applied to bones that are underground? Why can't it be applied to funereal objects? And the reason I bring this up is because if there is a consistency from region to region, Gold Belt only holds the surface rights, which means that Sea Alaska holds the subsurface rights. And if Sea Alaska's view on this is inconsistent, or if they want to honor the bones and the funereal objects of the people, there may be some strength there that you can find. So that's why I bring it up. I think it's worth looking into. All right, thanks.
Sheesh, Melanie.
Human remains. It's the direct lineal descendants that own the bodies. It's lineal descendants that have a direct connection to the bodies in the ground. It is not owned by village corporations. I teach classes on the respectful treatment of the dead. And corporations may own the land, but they do not own the bodies. It's important because consultation, when they come across human remains, they have to consult the nearest federally recognized tribe, because a body is not gold. A body is not oil. A body is my grandfather, my uncle, my brother, my sister. To our people, a body that died 1,000 years ago, we still remember them. So the body should remain with lineal descendants. Thank you.
I would applaud that, yes. We are coming close on time. If we have anyone else who would like to speak, yeah.
Hi, my name is Griffin Plush. I will try to be brief. This issue is something that I've talked with a number of the folks in the room about, and I think from the outset, where the Department of Transportation stated that they wanted to build this project, it was clear that it was for the new amalgam mine, right? I think we've heard that in the room today, that this is for a mine. It reminds me of something that our current governor, Dunleavy, has said pretty frequently, especially when talking with folks from the lower 48. He says that Alaska is America's warehouse, that it has lots of resources ready for the taking, right? But people don't live in a warehouse, right? That is what he sees our community as. He does not care. in my opinion, if the taking of those resources, leaves things in a state that is not acceptable for a community. I wanted to share a little bit of something that I was digging into in particular when it comes to this question of money with this, right? Because that's why folks are pushing for this mine and why they're pushing for this terminal in an effort to subsidize this mine. It is, I think, fair to say that our current state of laws around mining taxes in Alaska and in Juneau are not in a place that we see much benefit at all, and that it really, on balance, when you see something like Cascade Point, but also when you see the West Sioux Road that they're trying to develop out in the Mat-Su, when you see Ambler Road, when you see how they're putting state resources towards trying to develop Donlin, and these things, the balance of the money for our communities, not only are we not getting something from these mines, they are giving away public resources. They're giving away the Glacier Highway, right, if this were to be developed in those last few miles. They are giving away the Richardson Highway with the Man Cho mine, right? A lot of folks may be familiar. Another direct shipping of ore mine where they're taking ore out of the ground, shipping it on trucks going every 15 minutes down the Richardson Highway, and folks who live there, they have to deal with that. They have to deal with the increased accidents. They have to deal with the degradation of the road, of public resources. And so I just want to highlight that aspect, because that's an argument that we'll hear from folks, is that there's money in this for us, and there isn't, not under our current laws. In Juneau, doing the math, roughly 0.5% of the income of current mines is collected in local taxes. The average Juneauite, right? If you make an income, you buy food at the store, sales tax, not anymore, property tax, things like that. You are paying local taxes. Those local taxes, 5 or 6% of your gross income on average is what you are giving in local taxes. So when the balance for the average citizen is, basically every dollar that you're paying to the city, the mines are only paying 8 cents. That is not a good situation. We have Article 8 of our state constitution that resources be developed for the maximum benefit of people. I think that they're purposefully ignoring these laws. They're ignoring our constitution. And I guess what to phrase it as a question, but how do we push back against these kinds of arguments that claim economics that are made up, right? I mean, economics are treated as a science. They are a social science, but just like all other social sciences, they are fallible. And I guess, how do we push back on those arguments? That's my question.
Yes, because in the end, we cannot eat gold. I'll post that as our final question before dismissing people to connect, to comment, to take action. Remember, you can sign petitions here. You can use a QR code to sign petitions. Oh, okay. After you, yes. And in the back room, we're inviting folks to make 30-second comment videos that will be put together. We'll also need to clear the room here by about 8:30, 8:35. So with that in mind, should we go directly to the next commenter, or should we answer the last?
I'll let you take it.
Okay.
I would love to speak just briefly on this point. Grand Portage Resources is a company that's been listed on the Toronto Venture Exchange since 1984. They have never posted a profit a single year, and that is because their entire business model is extractive in nature, just like the work that they do in these kind of exploratory mining situations. And if it was economic to build this ore dock in Cascade Point, if it was economic, why can't the mine pay for this infrastructure? Why must the state bear the cost of this infrastructure for one private company's benefit that's not even an American company? That's my question.
All right.
Thank you. Andrea?
Hi, my name is Shaksani Andrea Moss. I am Wishkiton from Akwan. I am Eagle Wolf from the Tooshit, the Shark House. Today we, during our workshops, one of the things that was told over and over again is that personal stories are very valuable and they're powerful. And hopefully I can get it together. My grandmother and my grandfather, my grandmother is Wishkitan, and my grandfather is Japanese. And during World War II, they came to Alaska and took him away. And so, our family experienced this taking away, and it left us very devastated. And then I don't know the time frame, but because my grandmother didn't have a husband in the household, then they came and took the children. And there were 4 kids, my mother, 2 uncles, and an aunt. The 2 older ones were sent to Wrangell Institute, and the 2 younger ones were sent Naomi Skagway somewhere. And I often wondered why they split them up, because Wrangell Institute was closer to Petersburg, which is where they were living. And I guess I'll never know. But so that's another, they're taking away from us. During one of the Christmases, my cousin shared this. She said that each child, whoever they are, took the children somewhere, and it was a cabin, and the person that brought the children to the cabin told them that they would have one day, and then it was Christmas time. And so when all the 4 kids were together, the person that took them there gave them a candy bar. And they were just so excited to see each other. And they, to me, it's like it probably was Hershey's, because it's a lot easier to divide it equally. And so they had that, and then they were separated again. Again, to me, it's like they were together, and then they were taken away again. I think that some people forget that there's a wave that happens when things are taken away. We're grieving. There's things that we don't know how to handle. But when we go back to our teachings, our indigenous teachings, there are certain things in those teachings, and they're not different from the teachings anywhere where there's indigenous people, be it Japan, Africa, they're the same. And I think also that it's time that we realize that there is value in what we know and what we learn and what we share. And if this project or any other project is acceptable and accepted, not acceptable, then how in the world can we share what we know, not only to our children, but to the world? Because I have truly believe that when we treat others like human beings, that rubs off onto everybody else. And it's time to stop taking away and bringing back so we can serve our people. And our people are not just the indigenous, our people is humanity, the whole world. Thank you.
I would like to say a couple thank yous and then end our time with microphones so that we can begin our time connecting off microphone with each other. I hope you've observed who's here tonight as panelists and some of their expertise, some of their connections, some of their lineage. I hope you've observed who else is here because they care in the room tonight. And I hope that you will take action before you leave to stay engaged and to comment. I want to show some gratitude to the Alaska Conservation Foundation for their support to make this event possible. I want to share support to Miko, to Betsy back there, to the KTOO crew who made it possible for us to live stream this event. I want to offer thanks to all of our panelists for sharing their histories, their perspectives, and their voices. We wanted space for the voices that were not being heard, and we're very, very grateful that you came and spoke. And we're very grateful that you came to listen and to speak. To you, the public, for attending in person and online. Part of the lie of separating us from each other, part of the reason we get separated, and part of the current lie of a culture of individualism, which is not indigenous to anywhere. It's not indigenous to anywhere, individualism. We are all together. No one can live alone. No one can raise a barn alone. But it's very profitable when none of us will share anything with each other, because then we all have to buy one. So, the culture of togetherness is something that we can choose here. And the more we choose it and the more we practice it, the more it becomes impossible for our voices to be ignored. So let us walk out of here continuing to believe in collective action, to believe in each other, to take guidance from the values that created this place and that have been here for thousands of years, and from the voices who can speak with knowledge of centuries, knowledge of this place. Thank you so much. Again, take action before you leave the room, and we're going to leave some space for people to mingle and connect, and then we're going to politely, for our JAC staff who are also responsible for tonight working, we are going to clear out of the room by around 8:35. Thank you so much. Gunakchish. Thank you, SIAC, for putting tonight's event together.